My 6 years of being an environmentalist have been a never-ending cycle of overambitious doing it allness, followed by realizing that doing it all is thankless and exhausting. And aren't my efforts just being canceled out by greedy, polluting corporations anyway? Naturally followed by weeks or even months of giving up my sustainable habits. Does this sound like you? Because eco-anxiety and burnout are well-known conditions of the environmentalist. And every time I go through it myself, I get more and more nervous that this time the burnout will be permanent and I'll end up throwing in the towel for good. My most recent experience with eco-burnout led me to really think about how I can design a daily routine that fosters healthy mindsets and habits to prevent burnout. So I wanted to share all that with you because sustainable habits are only sustainable if you can sustain them. Yeah. Every morning, I check in with myself to assess my mood and energy level. As much as I'd like to, I know I can't sustain a sort of that eco-girl, do-it-all routine in the long term, because oftentimes it can be really draining and guilt-inducing when you try to force yourself to stick to the same ambitious routine every single day. We should respect the fact that the effort we're able to give from day to day isn't going to be the same always. So my first tip is to create variations of your daily routine based on energy level. What is your ideal routine for when you have the time and energy to do it all? How about an average day? And what are your non-negotiables for when you're not feeling your best but still want to show up? For me, my non-negotiables are stretching, drinking water, and contemplating my mortality. That last one is a super non-morbid habit I picked up from the viral routine of a Buddhist monk. Say it with me, I'm going to die someday. What do I want to do today? And in my ideal morning routine, I make the bed. It's getting a bit nippy here, which for me means duvet weather. In the cooler months, I take the extra bedding out so we don't have to use the heater as much, if at all. Just a simple habit that saves resources and has become a sort of autumn ritual, reminding me that I'm in the midst of a new season and to appreciate the slower vibes. Stuart's ideal morning routine is taking us on an hour's long walk, but unfortunately for him, a 20 to 30 minute walk is the best we can do. Just long enough to expose our eyeballs to the morning light and kinda set our bodies in motion at the beginning of a new day. On my low energy days when I don't prioritize this part of my routine, I often regret it because sunlight boosts the brain chemical serotonin, pivotal for good mood. You'll notice we're not using so-called eco-friendly pet waste bags because a quote biodegradable bag that goes in the trash is usually a beautiful, shining example of greenwashing. So until we have the means to compost Stuart's poop, single-use plastic bags are what we buy. I mention this because it's an important part of my routine to be realistic about what I can do without feeling guilty, and I encourage you to do the same every day. After being outside and witnessing all the vibrant colors of summer becoming muted and gold, I felt inspired to actually watch something grow. I love growing sprouts, and I love taking a moment to appreciate that the jar and the dish I'm using were sourced secondhand. And I can prevent a bit of waste by growing sprouts on my own windowsill. Cheers to tiny earth winds. Breakfast is sourdough toast with avocado, homemade tempeh bacon, sauerkraut, and some bulk hemp seeds. It's my current hyperfixation meal, and it makes me really happy. At this point, I'm feeling pretty awake, but I'm not quite ready for focus mode, so this is typically when I'll drink some herbal tea as I journal. And this may be controversial, but I have a digital journal in Notion. All the advice from self-improvement girlies and guysies to go analog in a physical notebook is just not for me and held me back from journaling for years. Now I journal almost daily, and it's a good exercise for examining my various anxieties, celebrating those earth winds, and lately figuring out the ideal routine for me. So I'm really bad at transitioning into the next phase of the day, so I have to trick myself into getting ready with a little reward in the form of a podcast. I've been binge listening to the Clothes Horse podcast and currently jamming the fast fashion episodes with Aja Barber, a personal hero of mine. Tip number 7 is to learn about earth care in a way that's joyful for you, so you're more likely to keep up with it, whether it's through books or documentaries, peer-reviewed studies or lectures, podcasts. I look forward to this every day and always learn something new.
Lean into the shittiness, you know? Like, who cares?
Okay, here's something I reserve for my ideal energy days, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, because I'm lazy and also cheap. But hey, the silver lining is that I don't go through as much product, so that's fine by me. And by the way, I use the word lazy in a facetious way. I've been called lazy all my life, and I internalized that label, always discounting what I was accomplishing because I perhaps could have done more or done better, but I realize now I wasn't lazy. I was chronically overwhelmed by the fear of doing something imperfectly. If I didn't think I could do a perfect job, I wouldn't even try. And now I know that this mentality is literally the opposite of what's required for Earth Care. Friendly reminder for both of us. And here's another thing I don't do every single day. Seems counterintuitive, but if I'm struggling with low energy levels and lack of focus, being dressed in quote real clothes can be a little distracting for me. But today I'm looking forward to repeating this secondhand outfit. I have noticed my anxiety is a little better when I wait at least an hour after waking to enjoy my first cup of coffee. Reed picked out this secondhand Keurig, and I've always been a little nervous someone is going to criticize me in the comments for not using a French press or something, but part of my anti-burnout routine is reminding myself not to care what strangers think about my earth person habits. I know this piece of machinery was saved from the waste stream, so that's good enough for me. Plus we use reusable pods. We buy fair trade coffee, which is a little pricier than conventional trade, so coffee snobs skip ahead, but I double brew the coffee grounds. The second brewing is weaker and blander than the first, but there's still some good stuff to be extracted there. I've been double brewing tea for years, so this was a logical next step. Where sustainability intersects with frugality, that's my happy place. And the fact that most of my eco-friendly habits actually save me money is incredible motivation to keep them up, instead of getting bogged down with the anxiety that comes from spending beyond our means. This is my accomplishables page on Notion, or my agenda you might call it. I do a variation of time blocking that really works for me because instead of trying to adhere to a rigid set of plans that are tied to the clock, this more flexible method is based on circadian rhythm. So it's more about my internal clock. Throughout the day, our alertness levels wax and wane, so it's important for me to roughly identify these periods in order to plan effectively. And I know that my focus is greatest at around 10, so that's when I start my work for the day. I am not a productivity channel, but I have a tendency toward geeking out. Since I'm no spring chicken any longer, I get minor back pain when I sit all day looking at screens. Of course, I'd read about how beneficial a standing desk could be, but instead of rushing to click buy, I devised this standing desk situation using stuff I already had. Now, I'm no ergonomic specialist to be sure, but so far it's been helping. Throughout the day, I mix it up between standing, sitting, and working from bed. Ultra profesh, right? But it helps with morale to change it up. And in the future, I'll be keeping an eye out for a sick secondhand standing desk, but for now, this is getting the job done, literally. And speaking of secondhand, my iPad, laptop, phone, and camera, almost everything I need for creating content, were all bought used. If you're thinking about fighting e-waste with me, check the description for a discount to back market. Since a large part of my activism is creating content about environmentalism, I need to make sure that my working hours are both efficient and enjoyable. Enter slow productivity. It's an idea I came up with that author Cal Newport totally stole from me and turned into a book that's coming out next year.
How'd you get a copy of my journal, Cal?
Just kidding, but great minds, am I right? I can't wait to read what Mr. Newport's take on the topic is, but I would describe slow productivity as sort of the opposite of hustle culture. It's quality over quantity. It's making sure that your schedule is in harmony with the peaks and troughs of your energy from day to day and week to week. It's creating your own motivation instead of waiting for it to find you. Thoughtfulness. Anyway, I use a Pomodoro system to make sure my productivity is balanced with rest. In case you're new to this concept, Pomodoro is Italian for tomato, and it gets its name from the little tomato-shaped kitchen timers of yore. The standard Pomodoro is 25 minutes of work followed by a 5-minute break, but I found this approach to be a little disruptive to my workflow. Like every time I would get into a groove, it would already be time to take a break, and it would be hard to pick back up where I left off. So instead, I do 90-minute deep work sessions, each followed by a 20-minute break. I feel like I'm working fewer hours overall, but getting more of the good stuff done because my focus isn't split. You know? I have all my notifications turned off. I just listen to some quiet instrumental music drink all my drinks, and once that timer starts, I'm ready to go for an hour and a half. During my breaks, I'll stretch and play with the animal who decided to adopt us, give my eyes a rest, get a little snack if I'm hungry, anything that takes me away from the computer for 20 minutes. And then I'll do another 90-minute deep work sesh. The reason I'm bringing productivity/work stuff into this video about eco-burnout is, well, if you get burned out in one area, that's not happening in a vacuum. That burnout is affecting other areas of your life as well. So the idea here is balance. Separating my work into these timed medium-length bursts helps me to kind of go deeper for a sustained period of time, while also guarding against the strain of overwork and the soul-squeezing nature of busy work. Because I do not function well when my working hours are filled with fluff and I have no time left to me for the things that matter. So this method helps me get into the flow state a little more quickly and not waste time doing busy work like checking my email every 10 minutes. I know I have an extended break coming up as soon as that timer goes off, so it makes me want to beat the timer. Not in like a toxic productivity type of way, but in an efficiency type of way. Because, and this is important, then I have a lot of time to dedicate to the things that make my life feel wholesome and content and balanced. And much of that centers around caring for the planet, so I want to make sure I have as much of that time as possible. Because to be honest, I would only have successful do-it-all days during those random fleeting moments when I was feeling super motivated and inspired, and when I wasn't feeling super motivated and inspired.
Because in burnout,
Nothing would get done, neither my work nor susty habits. After my second 90-minute deep work interval, it's time for lunch. 9 times out of 10, lunch is leftovers in order to prevent food waste. Today, I'm having some black bean and veggie stew with a tomatoey coconut broth and rice. I try to aim for a good combo of fat, protein, and carbs, so I feel nourished and satisfied. And as I eat, I catch up on YouTube. I either watch some kind of editing tutorial because tiny improvements to my work make me feel more confident and therefore less likely to experience feelings of self-doubt, which is a common cause and/or symptom of burnout. Or I watch a video by one of my favorite sustainability creators because they help me feel motivated and inspired to keep going. And to me, they're also a good reminder that we each contribute in a different way. Okay, so I know voiceover me was probably just prattling on about how
spending time improving my skills or learning how others are caring for the planet makes me feel nice and motivated.
But I just finished eating and I'm just feeling so tired right now, which is completely normal, by the way. Definitely feeling compelled to like take a nap or just stop filming for the day. But I know future Allison will be very pleased if my main accomplishable for the day has been accomplished. So I'm going to do a weird thing that I know almost never fails to get my energy back up. And you can give me crap in the comments, but what I'm about to do is basically like my failsafe. Okay? I hope this works. In case you're lucky enough to remain untouched by the pressure of buying the latest must-have trends, walking pads are currently the biggest deal in the productivity world, and I want one. But what do we do when we want something super bad but are also trying to reduce our consumption? We first try to find a way to use what we already have, and I have a living room. So I just walk around it while I watch another YouTube video, and I think it helps my food digest better and helps make that afternoon slump a little less slumpy. Okay, I'm not back at 100, but I think that worked. Pretty sure some of my neighbors saw me through the window. I still have some time before I transition back into deep work, so I'm going to consult my dopa menu. A dopa menu is a concept coined by ADHDers Jessica McCabe and Eric Tivers. It's just a list of what brings you motivation, and just like a menu, you order 1 or 2 things that sound good in the moment. I don't have to metaphorically order the whole menu and craft a viral that girl morning routine just to feel my best and like I'm capable of being a good earth person that day. I just need to consistently do a few things from my dopa menu every day to make me feel like a human person living on planet Earth. I swear by the dopa menu because during the dreaded afternoon energy slump, my brain is usually crying out for an extended doom scroll on Instagram. But I know I feel better when I can pick from a list of higher quality activities that match my energy level at this time of day and don't exacerbate those underlying feelings of doom and gloom, like reading a library book outside or learning French for free on Duolingo, or going out of my way to find positive climate news. But today I feel like cruising Facebook Marketplace just for fun. And who knows, maybe I'll even find a used walking pad. I'd really only buy stuff from my to thrift list, but I'll show you some of the cool things I find anyway. I'm trying to appreciate the necessity of keeping space in my days for these things that do make me feel inspired and hopeful and motivated every day to show up. I know few people have this level of flexibility in their job or their lives in general, but nevertheless, if you're a person who's prone to burnout, specifically eco burnout, I feel like it's so important to develop a repertoire of things that bring you a little bit of ease and make you feel your best so you can keep fighting the good fight, as they call it. And oh, that reminds me, there's a local election coming up at the time I'm filming this, so what a perfect opportunity to check out which candidates are endorsed by my favorite grassroots civics group. Local politics are beyond important, and I'm voting for climate baddies who support the environment, affordable housing, and density, which all seem like separate issues, but they're very much intertwined. At this time of day, I typically start to feel my focus inching back up, so it's back to work for 2 more 90-minute sessions with a break in between. On a regular day, I'll only work for about 6 hours, but when I'm nearing the end of a YouTube project, I'll definitely get into the 10 to 12 hour territory because I hyperfocus. So I'm trying to be better about taking care of myself during those periods by understanding the natural ebbs and flows of my energy and respecting them. Instead of working against my energy like I've been doing all my adult life, I'm trying to find ways to work with it. After working, I like to transition into evening time with a shutdown ritual and a mini reset. I'll make a note of where I left off in my work so the friction of starting again tomorrow is way lower. I'll clear off my desktops, both digital and analog. And this is so silly, but I say mischief managed to kind of denote that work is done and it's okay to put it away. Then I'll typically throw on some dope tunes, do a quick tidy, start a load of laundry, clean up my dishes from the day, you get it. Little environment resets reduce overwhelm and help me prepare for fun/peace mode. I think it's important to have a solid routine that replenishes you so you can show up for yourself and your communities and the planet as consistently as possible. Today, replenishing myself looks like taking in sunlight and getting outside to feel the weather changing and identifying silly little plants on my silly little mental health walk.
Phone set.
Returning a book to the little free library so someone else can have it for a time. Talking about my worries and fears with people who understand and care, whether that's my IRL peeps or my online community. That's you. Other days, it looks like going to the farmer's market or improving my scientific literacy or practicing my earth-themed hobbies like food preservation and tinkering with plant-based recipes. Do I do these things every day? No, it's impossible. I just pick a few things off the menu and I'm currently finding that it's enough. Since the sun is setting much earlier these days, we tend to make our dinner a little earlier too. Dinner is preferably local, seasonal ingredients that I've ideally meal prepped over the weekend.
Damn, look at that.
Staying connected to the seasons is one way to foster presence and mindfulness, which in my opinion are antidotes to overwhelm. I do like to do a little meal prepping over the weekends because I found that it helps to prevent food waste and also to ensure we're nourishing ourselves even when we don't feel like making elaborate dishes from scratch every night. Often while Reed is getting our dinner together, I'll hop in the shower. I'm trying to make it a habit to time my showers. Environmental scientists say they should be 4 minutes, and while mine are about double that, even triple that if I have to wash my hair. I only wash my hair about once a week, and I've reduced my water footprint in other ways, such as eating a plant-based diet and buying secondhand clothing. Because, note to self, trying to be a perfect earth person in every possible way doesn't always go too well. Balance and pragmatism are key here. But I prefer to shower in the evenings because the warm water makes me so cozy and sleepy, and when I shower in the morning, I literally feel like going right back to bed. So just another example of working with your energy, or lack thereof, instead of against it. One bad habit we'd been unsuccessfully trying to break is eating in bed. But honestly, I feel like it's largely harmless and I've stopped trying to resist it because I genuinely look forward to it at the end of the day. Just eating some good, simple food and watching an episode or two. I'm trying to get Reed to watch more documentaries with me, but right now I'm fully appreciative that we're back in our Curb Your Enthusiasm era. I'm trying to remind myself that environmentalism doesn't have to be my only interest, and maybe it shouldn't be. I call this my sleepyhead tea blend. It has herbs like chamomile and skullcap to support the nervous system and calm me down. When they're full, I like to start the food cycler and dishwasher before bed because during the day, the sounds would distract me, but at night, the white noise helps to drown out those ruminating, eco-anxiety thoughts that keep me up. And ample sleep is a huge factor for preventing feelings of burnout. So do what you gotta do to get the best sleep possible. In fact, since I need some kind of noise to help me fall asleep, we got into this years-long habit of going to bed with the TV on. But I thought that was maybe a poor use of electricity, not to mention it's not great for sleep hygiene. So during my last burnout cycle, I decided once and for all that this was a habit worth breaking. I'm back to reading every night and I don't miss the TV at all, especially since installing this dimmable LED light with rechargeable batteries. For me, burnout looms when I feel like I'm doing more than I can sustain long term, while simultaneously that it's not enough. But as they say, Earth care is a marathon, not a sprint. We won't always have the energy or the know-how or the privilege to do everything we want to do as environmentalists. So let's try to be kind and pace ourselves and make room for the things that keep us excited and hopeful. And remember that environmental activism is a lifelong process of learning and adapting and rallying. So we gotta make sure that we're up to the task. I hope you were able to gather a helpful tip or two from this, and I'll keep you updated as my anti-burnout routine evolves. Until then, here's a video where I myth bust some commonly held beliefs in the sustainability movement and present several research-backed positive eco habits that I'm focusing on instead. Not gonna lie, researching that video is what led me to make this one. Hint, hint.